I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to address the House tonight on American energy. Tonight's gathering again brings together people from across the country to talk about energy policies and energy costs and rising energy costs and what it means not only to American families, but what it means to the American economy. Tonight's organization is brought to us by the House Energy Action Team. It's a group of people throughout the United States elected to Congress who are committed to doing everything that we can to solve our nation's great energy crisis, to make sure that we are addressing the price of gas at the pump, to make sure that we are taking advantage of all the great resources that this country has to offer, whether they are traditional energy resources, be it natural gas, coal, or whether it's renewable energy and the opportunities that we have around this great country. This country faces a significant challenge. We all know the situation. Unemployment stands at over 8%, just as it has for the last 36 months in a row. Along with high unemployment, the American people have a new worry now: rising gas prices. The average price for a gallon of regular gasoline has risen to $3.45. That's up 11 cents from just 1 month ago, 33 cents from 1 year ago, and up a full $1.66 since President Obama took office. We cannot allow these high gas prices and energy prices to continue to stymie our economic recovery, and the American people cannot afford to continue to pay these unnecessary costs. Just yesterday, in fact, Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke testified in the Senate, and I quote, "A major disruption that sent oil prices up very substantially could stop the recovery." This is a serious matter that we're facing. The Federal Reserve Chairman has recognized that if gas prices, if energy prices escalate, if they spike, that disruption that sent oil prices up very substantially could stop the recovery that this nation so desperately needs. The chairman went on to note that price spikes feed inflation and act as a tax on American consumers. The government can approach this problem in a very direct way. We can take steps to increase domestic oil production and refining. Unfortunately, fighting high gas prices doesn't seem to be a high priority for this administration. Offshore leasing has fallen behind previous projections. Other administration policies have also curtailed onshore production. In 2007, the United States Energy Information Administration projected total 2010 U.S. oil production on federal lands to be 850 million barrels. Actual production was 16% beneath that. About a year ago, the Energy and Commerce Committee had an opportunity to hear from Secretary Chu, the Department of Energy Secretary. Testifying before the House Energy and Commerce Committee, I asked a very simple question. What is the administration's plan to address the rising price of gasoline, to help relieve the pain at the pump for millions of Americans who are trying to get to work and help their families ends meet? After a lot of hemming and hawing, the answer was, well, in 10 years from now. And I stopped and I interrupted and I said, the administration's plan to address high gasoline prices is something that we can count on in 10 years from now? And as we have seen with gas prices that have already risen $1.66 since the president took office, their plan is still not in effect. Permitting agencies across the federal government need to work to streamline, speed up, and improve the permitting process in order to close that production gap on federal lands. Energy exploration can lower energy costs while driving the economic recovery. Economic recovery and job creation is the #1 priority of this Congress, and it is time that the President and our friends in the Senate get on board. Creating jobs and getting people back to work is not a partisan issue, and it is past time that we get some wins in the fight against high unemployment and economic stagnation. For instance, it's been 3 years since the application was filed to build the Keystone XL pipeline, which would create a pipeline stretching from the oil sands in Alberta, Canada, to the Gulf Coast, bringing significant oil supplies to the United States. The Alberta oil sands development would create 6,000 jobs in Colorado. It's estimated that it would create 6,000 jobs between 2011 and 2015. The Keystone Pipeline is an important part of that development. These are good-paying, solid, reliable jobs, 20,000 direct jobs, 100,000 indirect jobs, and yet this president has vetoed the Keystone Pipeline. He has said no to jobs, no to North American energy. And I'd just like to show a survey that was taken, a recent survey a couple of weeks ago. The American people support construction of the Keystone Pipeline. You can see right here the number of Americans from across the political spectrum, Republicans and Democrats, the people, a variety of income levels, a variety of age levels, all people, the majority of whom support the Keystone XL pipeline because they know in this economy we can't say no to jobs. We should be saying yes to jobs. They know that if we say no to the Keystone pipeline, we're saying yes to sending our jobs to China. And Mr. Speaker, I don't think the American public wants China to win our energy race. I think they want to make sure that we are doing everything we can for energy security in our own backyards. We need pro-growth solutions to create jobs, but there's only so much that Congress can do to directly create those jobs. Real job creation comes from the private sector, from small businesses and private employers. Unfortunately, our government has a regulatory climate that makes it incredibly hard for businesses around this country to do what they do best, to innovate, to excel, to expand, and to hire. The EPA and other federal agencies have been writing new job-killing regulations at record pace. These agencies are actively working against the number one priority of the American people, to create jobs, job creation. At a hearing in the Energy and Commerce Committee in April of last year, an EPA Assistant Administrator, Matthew Stanislaus, admitted to me that the agency doesn't directly consider job losses when analyzing a new rule, when coming forward with an economic analysis. Not only is that just unacceptable, it's shameful that an agency would create rules, issue rules, without taking into account the impact in an economic analysis that regulation would have on jobs. Under this administration, the Obama EPA has proposed unnecessary and costly new rules on cement manufacturers, industrial boilers, farmers, power plants, energy providers, along with general ozone rules that will affect every sector of the economy with no thought as to what the consequence will be on the American job creator. To be clear, the regulatory killing field is not the only problem. In the financial sector, federal regulators are forcing banks to hoard capital, prohibiting community banks from effectively working with their borrowers. Businesses are struggling to operate in the face of damaging over-regulation, and the financial sector is not there to support them because of even more damaging regulations. It's no wonder that unemployment is still above 8%. It's no wonder this is the longest stretch of unemployment exceeding 8% since the Great Depression. We have government agencies saying they don't care about jobs, and we have an administration and a Senate that aren't doing anything about it. And with that, I'm joined with my colleagues from around the country, and I would yield to my good friend and colleague, somebody who has championed job creation, who has sponsored legislation to create jobs, Mr. Duncan from South Carolina.